Planning board will come to order. I'll get a roll call starting with Jason.
Jason Fishkill.
Lori G.
Craig Smith.
John Aikman.
Richard Campbell.
Christopher Tamulonis.
Ed Miyoshi.
Will you join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I welcome everyone tonight. Due to COVID regulations, just a quick reminder that the capacity will be limited to just 50 people in the room. We've achieved that so far. Upcoming meeting dates, November 7th and December 8th.
17th, sorry.
Oh, November 17th and December 8th. We have one set of minutes to approve. I trust everyone has had opportunity to read them. These minutes are from August 18th. Those in favor of passing, accepting these minutes,
So have a motion first.
yeah. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes from August 18th?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are accepted. There are no announcements. So I'll ask Elm Subdivision to come up and give us an overview of your project.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Econom, consulting engineer, represent Kyle Elms. Kyle owns a piece of property at 224 Blue Hill Road, approximately 2.6 acres. Looking to subdivide the parcel into another residential lot, one consisting of 1.4 acres and the other 1.2 roughly. So it'll be a single family residence.
Okay. So have you received the feedback from?
Pizza Terra's office?
Yes.
Yes, I did.
So if you could just make sure you've addressed, all of those.
We're working on those. I'm just, am I going to hear from the fire department?
Yes, sir. Yeah, I do note that that's still outstanding.
Yes,
so.
so I'm waiting to hear from the fire department, the highway superintendent. Surveyor, being that it was just our first initial, I didn't think that the surveyor needed to sign it, but he will sign the plat on future applications. We looked at the dry well. We're going to change the dry well to an infiltrator system, so that'll address Pete's comments there. Based upon the silt fence requirements, that all depends now if we have to relocate the driveway. So those are minor things that we'll have addressed as soon as I get the comments from the fire and the highway superintendent.
Okay.
Anybody?
And then from the steep slope protection.
I've been working on those final numbers.
Good. Scott.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon Clark Patterson's comments with regard to the driveway. Typically on the longer, steeper driveways, we don't want the water discharging directly onto the road. We want to come off the road at a negative pitch for some short distance. So when you look at your finished floor elevations, et cetera, just factor that in.
Okay.
Okay.
If I could show you if I
We don't have to get into the details now. I just wanted to pass that along to you because the comment letter doesn't really address that. And again, you're going to look at the steep slope. And as far as the cuts and fills, do you see it being a balanced site? Is a new lot or bringing fill on or off? Or?
It's going to be balanced. It's minor grading, and I just did. I was looking at a rough sketch of relocating the driveway.
Okay.
And if I do relocate the driveway, I can create a small depression at the base of the driveway,
Right.
so all the runoff would be collected into a depression.
Okay, sounds good.
So that's one of the things I'm addressing for people.
Sounds good. Okay.
Isn't the topography
There's basically a rock outcropping there, so that's where we figured we could put the house. It's the highest point, and it works the best with getting the gravity for the septic.
Scott, you don't have any other concerns with this, do you?
No.
Any further questions? Even with the fire department comments haven't come back yet, I think we could move forward to at least set the public hearing date. The earliest date would be December 8th. And I think in that time, you should have gotten feedback from the fire department and send that to the planning board office. Yeah, just that date, you can, okay. Can I have a motion to set the public hearing?
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so December 8th, we'll
Okay,
look for you to come back.
thanks much.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Have a good
Good night.
evening.
Next on the agenda is Zeller subdivision.
Good evening.
Evening.
Can I just, is that clippable? I can maybe clip it up on
Yes.
that board there?
Yeah, you-
Good evening, folks. Mike Gillespie from Gillespie and Associates, consulting engineer. We you have before us tonight is basically a three-lot subdivision located off of State Route 52. Let me mention that Don Zeller, as well as his father, the applicant, are in the meeting tonight. What we're proposing is a three-lot subdivision with accesses directly coming off of Route 52. The property is 4.4 acres. It's a 1 acre zone. So all the lots meet the minimum criteria relative to minimum lot size, setbacks, things such as that. It's a little strangely configured a bit in the back and so forth. There's a pond which shows up on the rear, which is basically the northern side of the property, which has been located, flagged as a wetland. So there's a 100-foot buffer that's detailed on the drawing. You can see that we're staying well away from all of that and back. The topography of the lot is such that it starts out on 52, then about in the middle part, it rises and then drops off to the pond in the rear. So the idea is to stay really on this side of that high spot. We've been so bold as to move forward already with the Dutchess County Health Department. We wanted to make sure that we had good soils out there. They were excellent. So we are in the process of preparing that application, obviously depending on how this goes. And what did come as part of the review, there is a small portion, there is a floodplain that's largely across the street. In fact, with the new wetland, or the floodplain mappings, there is a corner of the property that, in fact, actually hits that floodplain. So it appears we're going to shift the septic up the hill a little bit to make sure we're out of that area. The driveway, it's inevitable, so as part of this application, it looks like we'll be filing for a floodplain permit application as well. But again, it'll only be a small portion of the driveway. None of the homes, septic areas will be in those locations. So.
Mike, I couldn't tell from the map where the other homes on the surrounding parcels are located. I think there are a few other homes, right?
There are, yeah. It's.
Do you have a version of this that shows where they are in relation to the placement of these?
I don't have that certainly on here. We can provide kind of an aerial just to dictate and show where those other are. Prentice Drive is shown on this map. So you're basically traveling east on 52, you pass Prentice, And there was actually an old home on this property. It went back some time. It was pulled down approximately, how long ago?
Earlier in the year, April.
Okay, so yeah, earlier in the year it was actually pulled down. But I do know, based upon doing the soil testing out there, and actually familiar with Prentice Drive, this home here is approximately in this location here, so about the same distance as it currently is. This lot serves access off of Prentice, and I believe it's further back in this location here.
That's what I was looking for, so I think roughly about the same distance back, and we don't have anybody looking into the front or backyard oddly.
Yeah, we'll get that information on the print, just so it's clear.
You're gonna keep some trees between the lot closest to Prentice and the neighbors? So it looks like where the house is gonna go in, they're gonna, looks like there won't be any screening, is that right?
Well, again, this may shift up a bit, only because we have this floodplain issue in the corner here. So, certainly from this area here, it's not proposed to do anything within that, and also the buffer area. The tree, it says now formerly Martino, the adjoining property owner, looking at the area, will have a copy of the floodplain map, and it's pretty wooded as it is. So, we can certainly take a look and see what we can do to try and maximize that buffer distance, but again,
Just leave a little bit of the trees.
Do you anticipate that the state is going to allow 3 driveways, or is it going to be some combination of lots to driveways?
This is our preferred layout. We've submitted to DOT. We haven't got their comments back yet. What I expect is probably, which this board has actually done in the past too, is maybe Siamese or get a couple of, the one at the entrance at least close to the property line, and then kind of branch out as you come from there. That would kind of eliminate one curb cut. That's what I expect, but this is what we asked for.
The shared curb cut is good, but you're not talking about a shared drive.
Right.
We going to have just one driveway cross through the floodplain or 2 driveways?
Mike, the overlay, and I don't have it on here, Scott, but from what I understand, it actually runs, this general corner through here. I think we can do what we need to do to shift this one to get it out of that area.
And get it down to just one lot?
Yeah, further down here, get something like that.
So when you expect to get something back from the DOT?
It was submitted at the time of submission, so it's probably 3 weeks, I expect soon. Again, I didn't push them hard. There's no issue regarding site distance at this site. Straight shot both ways. It just becomes how they like that configured,
Are you having to bring any fill in for the septics to get it above the water table, 3 feet clearance?
Not the soil test that we did out there, all went into run bank gravel. So.
I know, but what was your depth of groundwater? Because you got, floodplain and pond and that.
When we did the soil tests themselves, there was no evidence of that. It's been dry. It's been dry too. Yeah. So, but with regards to the health department, there wasn't a hole for fill. As we head further in here, we may have to up more holes. We head up the slope a little bit just to see what's going on.
No, I'm just thinking because if you have a water table issue that you got to raise your septics up, then you got to raise your houses up to get gravity. And at that point, you need to bring fill in just so we know the whole big picture. We don't want to, if you have a conditional approval, if you get to that point based on health department, and then it comes back that the water table's high and you got to make this change, it could be a little substantial. So that's why I raised the question.
Yeah, that was one of the reasons why we actually did the soil test earlier on, just so we could have the information to bring it forward tonight. If we were looking at larger fill systems, or it would affect the lot count possibly, based upon the size of the system and so forth. That's not what we encountered here. So I know with Bank, it's not easy to see groundwater level. I mean, with clay and those kind of soils, you tend to see called modeling, which is gray spots, which may indicate,
Yeah, because we have areas like near our water systems over Dogwood that are bone dry right now. That typically there's 2 foot of standing water. So that's why, depending on when you did your tests, may not really be representative. But the health department witnessed those tests, or?
They did not. We did them, we took videos of them, and we're actually going to send that as part of our,
They're not requiring a witness of the test?
It's under 5 lots of them.
Like, did you actually submit for a highway work permit, or you just sent it in for a review?
Just conceptual.
Just for conceptual approval? Do you know, that, at the time of application, do you know who you sent it into?
It was the beginning of the month, and he's a younger gentleman. His name escapes me, but
Lance Gorney, maybe, or no?
Lance,
Oh, or at the residency?
as at a residency.
So Greg Bentley or Dave, I think. Okay, I just want to know, because I've just been trying to keep track of all the projects in the town and see where they all are and help you get updates when you need them.
Yep. Yeah, but again, we do anticipate a floodplain development permit. If there's fill, it does have to get installed at the end of the day. That'll be part of our floodplain permit application. We're going to make an application hopefully here within the next week or two.
I think it's hard to move, I mean, we could schedule for a public hearing, but if we haven't received comments back from the DOT, then it would be sort of hard to hold a public hearing if we don't know where the driveways exactly are going to be. So, I mean, it's up to the pleasure of the board if we want to schedule him, and then assuming we will hear back from them.
Only because it hasn't been too long, and this is the first time you've seen it. I'm assuming the first meeting, I think, is in December. I would think 2 months is certainly sufficient time enough for them to offer some kind of a comment on what we're doing.
If you would, maybe you could forward Jackie just the cover letter that you sent. Okay, just so that we know where it went and what time, and then.
Yep.
Any additional questions from the board members? No? So Mike, if you can get, you're going to you have to get a more formal Department of Health
Department of
approval, right?
Well, we went out there and did the soil test. We have to make an application, but I wanted to have information relative to what the soils were like there to make sure that we were talking about a 3-lot subdivision. Sometimes soil conditions on tight lots change things, like maybe losing a lot. I don't see that on this subdivision based upon the test that we did. So.
Okay. Yeah, I think the span of by December 8th, I think it'd be good to have you come in for a public hearing at that point, considering everything lines.
Certainly there's going to be more detail because the septic systems will actually be formally designed. That application would have been made and we would have heard back from DOT at that point.
Okay, given that information, I have a motion to set the public hearing for December 8th.
So moved.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
And Mike, if you're moving those driveways, you'll submit drawings ahead of time for us?
What's that?
If you're moving the driveways, you'll submit the drawings ahead of time for us?
I'll be making a resubmittal based upon the modifications that came up, and Pete had a few comments with meets and bounds, some other things which will clean up, and Rick Witt too.
My quick question, what's the frontage of that adjoining lot along Prentice?
This exactly, I don't know why it's there, but it says it's 142 feet.
Okay. So I think we have a requirement 125 feet from the nearest intersection.
Okay. Thank you, folks.
Thanks, Michael. Thank you.
Stuart Scott is on his way in.
Okay, thank you.
You got this, Michelle?
I'm sorry?
You got this, right?
Yes, the resolution, yeah. Everybody has it.
Thank you. I'm going to stop before writing my address. This is just crazy. Okay, there we go. I'll continue with the address. All right.
So you just, some of the board members are familiar with this parcel, but feel free to just give us the reason why you're here and start the discussion.
Yes, this is the so-called Lot 5. Let me get my paperwork in front of me. For Stewart Scott Associates is the landowner. Sounds like the mic's a little hot, might be feeding back shortly. There is a drainage easement cutting through, one way of looking at it, near the center of the property in an east-west direction. And there is a leg of a drainage easement, I'll call it, that's kind of branches further to the south in the area where we're proposing a house and associated septic system. This leg of the drainage easement appears, though I can only theorize at this point, to be a relic from a earlier time when wetlands and the like maybe mattered a little bit less, or as hurdles, I can only presuppose, but I think this would have allowed somebody to subdivide this lot, at least hopefully. That's my understanding of this kind of unusual shape of this leg that's now in the way of being able to have a moderately sized house and associated septic field.
So can I just give a little background? So everybody will remember the Stewart Scott subdivision. There were originally, it went through many iterations, but I think there were originally 6 lots. There were 2 lots that were part of the original subdivision that never got constructed on. Those 2 lots were larger than the rest of the lots, and they wanted to take those 2 lots and then subdivide them further into multiple lots. Well, the applicant has since decided that they're just going to build on those 2 lots, so 2 homes. And this lot that's in question right now has this drainage easement. It's lot 5 and 12 were the 2 lots that were not constructed on. And this one is lot 5. And lot 5, I believe, is 5 point something acres, 5.48 acres or something like that. And they want to just build
I apologize for that.
one house. But in order to, I think it's for efficiency of site location, they want to remove this spur of this drainage easement. And so they've come to the planning board to have that drainage easement, to seek approval to have that removed.
When did we do the subdivision?
It was a long time ago, but they came before us to further subdivide this lot and the other lot. And now they were always entitled to having.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah, it was, yeah, and before, it was years and iterations.
It was a few years ago that I came before you trying to split both lots 5, this one, and lot 12, both of them in half, turning these 2 into 4, which we abandoned because they're too restrictive with the wetlands and their size. It was overly ambitious development aspirations, I would say. So we folded on that proposal. It is 5.3 acres.
5.3.
Yeah.
So Michelle, you're saying that the drainage easement is a relic from prior to the original subdivision, or it was required with the original subdivision?
So there's I don't know, I mean, I can only guess what happened, but I think that there's an easement that goes like this, and then there's this little spur. They want to dissolve the little spur,
Right.
what you call, and I think that little spur, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, may have been to drain portions of the lot further. So I think it may have been put in originally, potentially to drain whatever wetlands may have been there, as he was saying, prior to the wetland rules coming in.
I don't think there's wetlands there, but draining the lot generally, I'd say yes, because these soils are basically pure clay, and it's basically flat. So it's not an attractive site to say, hey, you two can build here. So I think it was a little trying to pretty up, if you will, via an aggressive drainage measure that I don't think people would do these days. Yeah, but it doesn't functionally alter the lot in a meaningful way that it is or isn't there, other than yikes, these soils are clay, which of course the septic system has to design in response to, as does the foundation of their house. So there's nothing restrictive, so much as I think not ideally attractive for a prospective buyer. So this is in the way of even doing a humble and reasonable house and
Was the
appropriate type of
easement to
septic.
the benefit of the town? Does this have to get referred to the town board? Or
Yes, yes.
and
That can be a
Can you
condition.
dissolve an
Yes,
easement?
it's a condition. I'm sorry, Lori?
Can you dissolve an easement?
Yes,
And
if the town board votes in favor, yes.
Okay.
we're proposing to modify this one portion, and we're not dissolving, I just want to make sure that that's clear. The proposal is not to remove an entire easement, but rather to take this one leg of it, spur is a good word, and discontinue that portion, so therefore modify the line, I don't know legally if it's called a lot line of a drainage easement. Modify.
So is it considered the town's infrastructure at this point? Would the town have to pay to remove the infrastructure, or what?
So if the planning board approves with the modification of the easement, the conditions of the resolution of approval would be that they would have to remove the drainage infrastructure. They would have to then, where the infrastructure connected into the other portion of the drainage easement, they'd have to make sure that the hole was, I think there's a catch basin there.
Yeah, it's a
There-
culvert pipe and a catch basin, remove the culvert pipe, seal the catch basin.
seal the catch basin, and then, just they would be doing all of the improvements.
So the developer would be responsible for it?
Correct, as a condition of the planning board approving the removal of that, or it's ultimately the town board that approves the termination of the easement, but the planning board would approve it off, to take it off of the subdivision plan, basically.
So we can approve it as a site modification, and then.
And then you refer it to the
over
town
to the
board.
town to release
Correct.
the easement.
Correct.
So the remainder of the easement, though, is relied on for actual drainage for this subdivision?
That's my understanding, yes.
Not so much the subdivision, but for the drainage on Warren Farm Road, is it?
Or Bird's Path, or one of them.
Bird's Path,
Wherever,
on
yeah.
Bird's
Yeah,
Path.
one of them, yeah.
On Bird's Path, two across Warren Farm Road, yes.
I don't know if you remember being out there, but there was we saw some weird drainage when we were out there, and I think that we actually looked at this and we're trying to figure out where it went.
I remember us looking under with flashlights trying to figure out what was happening.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
okay, Interesting.
I thought I remember us asking them to replace the pipe work, right?
That was early on a concern, the condition of the pipe. No, because they
Yeah,
wanted to
remember-
build something over the top of the pipe.
Yeah.
Now they're not doing that.
Yeah, now they're not doing that because there was a house they were gonna be doing
Right.
something over
Right.
that pipe, yeah, yeah.
Right.
So,
Today, I don't think we would have taken it as an easement, Dexter. I think it would have been an easement to the benefit of an adjacent lot, so that that drainage could run across the neighboring lot. I don't know that we would have taken it if I was reviewing it today. Not something we would have wanted to maintain, honestly.
Right.
But it doesn't collect water from the road, it just collects water from that lot, basically.
Any further questions from board members? Being that we see this as a minor site plan change, can I have a motion to accept that, and then we have a resolution?
So
Second?
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor of minor site change amendment?
Aye.
If you don't mind, John, if you would read the resolution?
Be happy to. Resolution approving revision to Lot 5 drainage easement, Stewart Scott subdivision. Name of applicant, Stewart Scott Associates, Lot 5 easement revision. Location, Bird's Path and Warren Farm Road, parcel 6355-00-557510. Resolution offered by Planning Board member John Eichman. Whereas the applicant has applied to remove a 6,236 square foot segment of a town drainage easement and associated drainage infrastructure on Lot 5, 5.28 acres of the Stewart Scott subdivisions, Whereas the removal of the drainage easement will allow for more efficient site design. Whereas the portion of the drainage easement proposed to be removed does not perform any significant function, and the removal of the drainage easement and infrastructure will not cause any significant adverse drainage impacts. Whereas the action is considered a Type 2 action under seeker and no seeker review is required. Now therefore be it resolved that the Planning Board hereby amends Lot 5 of the Stewart-Scott subdivision described on the map entitled Stewart-Scott Subdivision Lot 5 Drainage Easement Modification, prepared by Synergy Design and dated 9/2/20, subject to the following conditions. Town Board approval of the termination of the drainage easement, number 1. Number 2, the filing of declaration on the property that there be no further subdivision. Number 3, the remainder of the drainage easement shall be mowed by the applicant. Number 4, the catch basin under Warren Farm Road in the drainage easement must be repaired by the applicant. And number 5, the drainage infrastructure in the easement to be terminated must be removed, and the connection to the existing catch basin must be sealed, bulkheaded. Be it further resolved that within 5 business days of the adoption of this resolution, the chair or other duly authorized member of the planning board shall cause a copy of this resolution to be filed with the town clerk and a copy sent to the applicant owner.
Can we, before voting, I just have a question. I think maybe it's about the easement. Condition 1 says town board approval. Do we want to say town board approval of the termination and filing of the document? Or do we not need to worry about the filing of the actual termination of the easement?
No, that would be included in any sort of town board resolution, so I don't think we have to worry about it in the planning.
But isn't there a physical filing you have to do to remove it?
A recording with
Yeah.
the county clerk? Yeah, but I think that's more in the purview of the town board's resolution.
But we don't want an applicant to file a map showing an easement has been removed until the easement's actually removed, right? Don't we need to come after all that is done?
I'm sorry, I don't understand that question.
So we want to prevent the map from being filed until the town board has actually filed the termination or removal of the easement.
The
That's my
filing of the
point.
final
We're saying
subdivision
town board
map.
approval, that'll happen at a meeting, but the actual documentation of the removal of that easement should be finished, right, before the map actually gets filed.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Do we need to just tweak the wording here, or I'm not sure what the right wording would be, but.
Right, I'm not, and
Why wouldn't he though, if these conditions don't require it be filed?
I imagine filing was part of a prior
Our
resolution.
second one says the filing of a declaration. Our first one doesn't include a filing, that's all I'm calling out.
I would think a new map should be filed.
A new map was filed after
Yeah.
everything's, yes,
After the easement is terminated.
Yes.
yes.
Always just making sure that it's not going to be filed before the town board.
We don't want any future mix-ups between which is the correct
Right.
filed map.
Right.
Right.
I'm just, if anybody ever wants to run title on a property and your map doesn't match the actual description of when an easement was terminated, you're causing an issue for a property owner. It's better to just make sure we're conditioning for it so the map doesn't get filed before the easement is terminated.
So you want to amend number 1 to be the town board approval of the termination of the drainage easement and
And
the
filing of same or something like that.
Okay.
Can I just weigh in on one thing, and it may or may not be applicable, please tell me. Normally, and correct me if I'm wrong, when a planning board approves something, after which the approval is resolved and signed, then those maps get filed. I've never heard of a planning board approval contingent on a map already having been filed for the planning board to then approve what usually is approving
That's not what
filing it.
we're
No,
talking
I
about
misunderstood.
that-
Okay, very good.
we're
As long as you
saying-
guys got it, because I don't quite understand how that applies, but carry on.
So this is the conditions upon which, that need to be satisfied before the map can be signed and filed.
Okay.
So one of the conditions said town board approval of the removal of the easement, and I'm suggesting it should actually say, and the filing of that removal, so that it's no longer in the public record that that easement exists.
And then the planning board approves it?
No, and then the map can be signed and filed.
Okay, I trust the legal expertise.
Basically, it's a
there.
condition.
It's just a
I
condition.
trust, I
It
got
doesn't have to
it.
come back before.
Right,
Okay,
this
you don't have to
is
come
the
back.
approval.
I
This is-
see.
There's just conditions to
Oh,
that
okay,
approval that have to
okay,
be
I
met
understand. Thank you.
before it would be signed and filed.
Okay, that makes sense.
So I consent to that amendment.
Concern, or are you okay, Mo?
No, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Yeah, I didn't think it was necessary, but if we want to put it in, I think that's totally possible.
okay.
Okay, so can we get a second with that update in the language?
Second.
Moved in properly second. Now, vote on the resolution. Lori G.
Aye.
Jason. Ed Miyoshi.
Aye.
John Ackman.
Aye.
Chris.
Aye.
And myself, Richard.
Aye.
And myself, aye. The resolution passed, so we have some administrative things to do to move it along, but you're all set.
Okay, very good. May I ask one question in parting regarding the town board? Is there anything I should be aware of to represent this before the town board, or who I can call somebody to ask? Or?
No, I'll represent it with the...
Very good. Have a nice night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We don't have to do a formal referral to the town board, though, right? This will just move to the town board?
I spoke with the town, with Tom earlier, just to make sure I understood the legality of it when I was preparing the resolution. So he's aware, and they are aware that they need to schedule them on the agenda, assuming the planning board approved it tonight, which they have.
Okay.
Thank you. Have a nice night.
You're welcome.
Good night.
I think so, if we can.
If you wouldn't mind, just have one seat. Oh, I'm sorry. That's okay.
We're gonna switch the order up a little bit because we think we're gonna be quick with the other one. We're gonna switch the order up a little bit because we think we're gonna be quick with the other application, just so that they don't have to wait for the whole person.
So you want us to accept?
That would be terrific.
Sure,
So
that's
is-
okay. That's why I was trying to preserve that third seat.
Where's the, are they here?
Yeah, we'll see another again.
Okay.
I don't think my people are here. No, they're up there now. They don't? They're just waiting to be called in.
We're going to use
A lot of these. Oh, okay. We brought our own too. So. You tell us where you want it.
Yes, that one and the agenda. You probably only need one actually.
Okay.
It'll be okay with one.
Good.
So next on the agenda is Hopewell Living, a parcel that's on Route 82 and kind of close to Phelan. We're going to have a motion to reopen the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
We moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to declare lead agency for this. So we want to just kind of, you want to say something?
No?
Oh, that's it. If you can get the,
So I think just by way of, last time we had declared our intent to be lead agency, we had circulated, and I think we were pretty close to the 30 days last time, so we just wanted to give it a couple extra days, so we're going to declare lead agency at this meeting.
Okay.
This project.
Do you want a
Do you need
motion for
motion?
that now?
Yes, please.
So I'll make a motion to the chair to just declare ourselves lead agent for the Hopewell Senior Living.
Second.
it's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Good evening. Hi, Jeff Quintelmo from Insight Engineering, Surveying and Landscape Architecture, representing Hopewell Senior Living. I'm accompanied tonight by Dr. Phil Greeley from Mazer Consulting, our traffic engineer, and the property owner and developer, Tony Segretti. As the board is aware, we had a public hearing opened at the last meeting. We did receive some comments from the consultants to the board as well as the board. We did reply to those comments. There were a series of traffic comments that Phil replied to. There were engineering and planning comments which we replied to, and we provided the board with updated plans and information based on that. So my understanding is this evening's a continuation of the public hearing. We're here to answer further questions from either the public or the board. I don't know if you want us to go through what changes we did make, but they were what I would call refinements. Nothing really changed as far as the macro portion of the project in terms of the 90 apartment unit count, the on-site parking, the driveway locations, the proposals for water, sewer, stormwater. So that all remains the same, but we did address some of the more finer points.
Okay. So my understanding is also that you still haven't heard back from the DOT?
I'm going to let Phil address that.
Good evening, Phil Greeley, Mazer Consulting. At the last meeting, we discussed a submission to New York State DOT. Our original submission was made on July 31st of this year. DOT has been having some difficulties keeping up with their reviews. But we did make a resubmission. We confirmed that they have it. After the last meeting, we included a resubmission on October 8th, which included the updated traffic study, which incorporated the items that your traffic consultant had requested, additional accident analysis, additional information on trip generation, a copy of our submission to the board, which was dated October 2nd, which went through item by item responses to your consultant's comments. Included in that submission was a request for input and direction on pedestrian treatments and what other mitigation, in addition to the proposed left turn lane widening for our entrance, that would be required. On, I think it was October 1st, there was a letter to the town from Mary McCullough, which asked for certain items. They declared us as a major permit. A major permit means that we'll be given a PIN number. We had to supply a $2,000 payment and an agreement for review services of DOT. That was all submitted on the October 8th submission. We did confirm receipt from DOT. They had to open the package a few days later, but they did confirm that. So everything that they've asked for from us, including the updated site plans, a copy of the stormwater work, was all submitted, and we're waiting to hear back.
Craig, I can confirm that they are in receipt of everything. They are actively reviewing it. From my correspondence with them yesterday, they were unable to provide comments prior to today's meeting, but they expect to get them shortly.
Yeah, about 2-3 weeks out, or?
I would think that would be safe. I mean, my conversation with Lance Gorney yesterday, I mean, he indicated by next meeting, but, you know, I'm assuming then he's thinking that's probably a month away.
Mm-hmm.
They've been pretty consumed with permits that are either under construction or trying to get finished before the season, so that's been part of the delay also. So.
Okay. Well, glad to hear that you guys got everything in, so.
And we'll coordinate with Brendan's office, you know, just if there's anything else that's needed. You know, sometimes when both the town and our office are asking for the responses, we get better service.
Okay. One of the other things I would like, did we get an updated SWIFT? And that's probably not for you.
Yeah, we had submitted a SWIP originally. It's our understanding that the general arrangement of that SWIP has been found acceptable by the consulting town engineer. They did say as the project proceeds, they would get us detailed comments. We have not yet received any further detailed comments. So we're up to date in terms of what we've received to date.
I think we have a little disconnect, because I was talking to the consultant today, and they said they witnessed test pits, but they hadn't got anything subsequent to the witnessing of those test pits.
Correct. We did do testing, and they were there and witnessed the testing.
Right. They said that's where it ended on their end, so I don't know if we have a disconnect here, but that's what I was told.
Okay. We maybe do have a disconnect in that, you know, the testing actually bared out to be better than what was in our SWIP, so our SWIP stands ready and is complete.
Because we don't even have a comment letter based on no additional information from the last meeting, so.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
We don't have a new consultant letter from CPL,
Right.
because they said since the last meeting, all that's accomplished was just witnessing test pits and no further submission on either the SWIP, the sewer, you know, or the water, so.
Okay, the sewer and the
We
water,
have a disconnect, kind of
separate.
sounds like it, but
Yeah.
we don't have any new comments on that, so.
So the comments would be coming from CPL, correct?
They think you're submitting, they're waiting for you to submit.
Okay. So
So, I mean, we can get that resolved, but we don't have, there's nothing to comment on as far as they're concerned.
Okay, so, again, we can straighten that out, but just I want the board to be clear that we submitted a complete SWIP. As part of that SWIP, we conducted full soil testing, which bared out and supports the SWIP, and we were under the impression we were going to get technical comments. We haven't gotten any technical comments, so we'll reach out to them if that's okay.
Yes.
And see if we can't get some technical comments, and then we'll respond to them.
Okay.
So thank you, Scott, for pointing that out.
So,
Have you submitted now on your water and sewer connections, anything, or?
We have not submitted anything beyond what's in our packet, which is, you know, the conceptual routes as well as material type sizes. But we certainly have much more to detail on that.
okay, so at this time I want to give opportunity to anybody from the public to speak for or against this project. Okay, well, we can come back up then. I mean, we do have, like to get that information from the DOT and this other item resolved. So I'm inclined for adjourning the public hearing until December 8th is when our next, November is already packed, but you're agreeable to December 8th to reconvene, and then hopefully we'll have all the information in.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on what we have to check off in order to be able to close the hearing. So we want to be able to get initial comments from the DOT, which Phil will effort, and then our office will reach out to Scott and to CPL to get any residual technical comments on our SWIP, and we'll work that out in the interim. And at that point, those are the two items that we're identifying to be able to close the hearing.
I have a note that you didn't have your cut and fill completed. Is that going to require any permit or anything? Is that complete now?
We do have the cut and fill numbers on the drawings at this point,
Okay.
as requested by the board at the last meeting. We did identify in our original package that we would require an excavation permit, so that continues to be on our list of permits that we requested.
Because that needs to be part of your public hearing. Have you advertised for that?
That's correct. My understanding is that that was part and parcel to, I believe, 4 permits on our public hearing.
Okay. Because in the original, when we opened the public hearing, we said the cut and fill was not complete and it was unknown.
I think you had an excavation, he put it, I had told him initially, I think I identified that in my original letter to you, that you would likely need a cut and fill special
We were
permit.
fully aware that we needed a cut and fill, an excavation permit with this quota.
So they may not have had the exact numbers, but they were, I remember in my original letter asking you to do that.
So you can confirm that we've got the right
I can confirm that, yeah.
Okay. Because if not, then we have an opportunity, right, to get that advertised before December 8th,
Yep.
so it can be open and closed concurrently.
I'll check that for you and get back to you.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll see you on December 8th, and we'll be here again on December 8th, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need
You
a
want a
motion?
motion?
Yes.
Make a motion to adjourn the Hopewell Senior Living public hearing to December 8th.
Second.
We heard the motion. All in favor?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to take 5 minutes to let the applicant set up for.
Partner with Blue Water, and Trista, our professional engineer with Langen Engineering, which will take you through our slide deck here and hopefully orient everybody towards what we're doing. We're excited to be here. 15 years ago, IBM left the West Campus on Route 52, and we're excited to be coming forth with a proposal for the repurposing and the redevelopment of the majority of that property. As the planning board is fully aware, since 2005, the few remaining IBM operations that were on the West Campus moved over to the East Campus. And that campus has now remained vacant for a long period of time. We now know that, of course, the small portion of the former IBM West Campus, approximately 33 acres, was approved for a recreational sports complex. The applicant neither owns nor controls that 33.73 acres, so this plan has nothing to do with that piece of property. And we just want to make sure that you understand what the site is. The enclosed application that we have here before you is for the 123.86 acres that's to the rear of that and fronts on I-84 as well. So during the 15 years when the property remained vacant, obviously the existing structures continued to deteriorate, and the town board and the town realized the importance of trying to do something with this property and trying to encourage redevelopment so that this becomes once again a major asset for the town. And that encouragement was formulated into a rather creative approach, which was to adopt legislation as part of your code that provides for the issuance of an economic redevelopment special permit. And that is precisely what we're doing. We are hoping to implement what it is that the town decided to do with respect to the legislation that allows for this. So this is an application that we hope will revitalize, repurpose, and provide an economic engine for the town. And so with that, what I'd like to do is turn it over to John DeCola, who is a partner with Blue Water, and who will explain a little bit about Blue Water and where we're headed with this. So thank you again.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. John DeCola, partner with Blue Water. For those of you who don't know us, we are a real estate investment and development firm that is exclusively focused in the logistics sector. We've been in business for over 20 years, and during the course of those 20 years, we've had national portfolio in over 25 markets across the country. But New York City is our home market, and so we've been very active in the whole New York City metro area for our whole existence. And during that time, we've either owned or developed over 35 million square feet. We currently are active with 8 development projects totaling about 4.5 million square feet that are in various stages of either under construction or in the pre-development phase. And the closest one to here actually is only 15 miles away over in Montgomery, New York, where we're building a 1 million square foot distribution building. And during that time, when we started on that site, we became aware of this site and became very much attracted to the unique qualities that are here that really create a clear path towards redevelopment. And really love the elements that are here that allow us to come in and hopefully, as Richard said, fulfill the objectives of the economic redevelopment special permit. The key advantages we like when we're looking at a redevelopment site is usually a lot of infrastructure that's already there that you can take advantage of, and IBM had a lot. So we're able to take advantage of a lot of that. Namely, if you look at the road network, there's a lot of traffic capacity for our project. What is most important really is the interchange here with I-84. That's where the majority of the traffic will be coming in. Most of all of the trucks and most of the employees will be using that intersection with I-84 up to Lime Kiln Road, and then a straight shot is I Park Drive right into the site. The connection here with Route 52 is really just a secondary connection, and we don't really expect to have a lot of traffic that's using that. So we won't be in our traffic study is there for support of this. Will not be taxing the local road network. In terms of utilities, another good check here. There's plenty of capacity there for water, sewer, electric, and gas. So that has worked out well. And I think for the most part, one of the clear advantages that we can fit our requirement really within the footprint of what was formally developed. So our site plan, which Tricia will go through, really utilizes that portion of the site that's already been disturbed. We're staying outside of any areas that are wetlands or floodplains. We're not, any wooded areas by and large going to be left as they are. And no natural habitat resource areas will be disturbed. And then the site itself is a large site, so from the standpoint of stormwater control, we can handle everything through a design that we think actually improves what's there today. And then most importantly, the main attraction for the site is that it's zoned properly for the use. And most importantly, with that economic redevelopment special permit, we think this is the use that really fits very well with what the intentions are. So we're excited to be part of that, and hopefully we'll create a nice win-win for the community. So with that, I'll hand it off to Trista, who will walk you through the site plan in greater detail. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Trista Kuna, and I am a civil engineer with Langen Engineering. So I'm here today to talk about Project Redtail. So we have here the existing site plan. It's already largely been discussed, but we'll just review just a couple of the different main components. So the primary lot is this large lot in the center, which is 105 acres. We then have another smaller lot to the west, which is 15.3 acres, and a small lot to the southeast of only 3.5 acres. So the entire project site is 123.86 acres. A couple of different roadways of note. We have Auditorium Drive along the east side of the site, South Drive, which currently runs south along the west of the site, comes down to the east and connects with Auditorium Drive, as well as I-Park Drive. I-Park Drive then connects out to Limekiln Road to the east. These are the main roads that we'll be discussing as part of this project. So also as previously mentioned, it is formerly known as the West Campus. It was constructed in the 80s and at the time had approximately 1 million square feet of building area and over 1,500 car parking spaces in this area. So therefore, there is a lot of infrastructure that was in place. And the site is previously developed, which makes it very suitable for the redevelopment that we're proposing. So here we have a proposed rendering of what the facility would look like. The building is 629,186 square feet. It is 50 feet 2 inches tall, which is roughly similar to what the existing office buildings are today. So building height is roughly the same as what it looks like now. There are 132 loading docks on the building on the north, west, and south sides. There are 700 trailer parking spaces also along the north, west, and south sides. And there are 1,000 car parking spaces to the east of the building, which is where the main entrance is located. There are also 500 car parking spaces shown to the north. These are for an agreement between the sports dome and this property and are not to be constructed as part of this project. There will also be monument signs located at the main driveways along Auditorium Drive, but nothing at the frontage along Route 52. So I'd like to discuss a little bit of the access, circulation, and parking. So the first change is that South Drive, which had previously gone south down the site and east, is now getting bisected and connects to Auditorium Drive along the east side. There are 3 driveways for the car parking lot along Auditorium Drive, and there are 2 drop-off locations, one along Auditorium Drive and one near the main entrance, so that way employees can be dropped off at the facility instead of just needing to drive their own vehicle. So here's also a rendering of what the facility might look like at the main entrance. So in order to discuss the truck circulation, I would like to switch to the overall plan to help you show the full network. So as previously mentioned, all trucks would be coming from Interstate 84. There is no truck traffic planned along Route 52, so every single truck will be coming from 84. They will then be coming north on Limekiln Road, make a left onto I-Park Drive, head along the south of the former East Campus, and then head up Auditorium Drive where they would make a left into the northernmost truck driveway, and they would enter the guardhouse. So this is a fully secure facility, so all trucks must check in at the guardhouse as they enter, and it is fully secure with a fence. The trucks would then maneuver around the site, dropping off a trailer, picking up a trailer, and they would leave via this guardhouse to the south. They would then head back down to I-Park Drive, make a right on Limekiln Road, head south, and then head on Interstate 84, whichever direction they need to go. So again, to emphasize, all trucks on 84, not on 52. Additionally, 75% of the car trips, the associates, would also come from Interstate 84. So that means only 25% would be using Route 52. So again, emphasizing that most of the traffic is coming from 84, Limekiln Road, and I-Park Drive. And based on the data that we have found, there were up to 11,600 people that had worked at this facility back in the 80s. So there's plenty of infrastructure in place to accommodate these vehicles. So based on our studies and our analysis, we have found that there are no off-site improvements needed. All the infrastructure that's currently in place is suitable, and there are no significant impacts to traffic as part of this project. We also intend to convert Auditorium Drive to a public right-of-way as part of this project. So I would like to discuss grading, drainage, and stormwater. So I would like to emphasize that we are not increasing any stormwater peak flows going towards Route 52, Gildersleeve Brook, any adjacent communities, or Wickapee Creek to the west. We are either maintaining or decreasing all peak flows as part of this project. We are doing so using a proposed wet pond to the northwest, as well as dry detention basins and bioretention basins along the south and east portions of the site. We will also be using the existing detention basin located along 52, the existing detention basin to the west of the substation, and there is a partially constructed extended detention shallow wetland, which was constructed partially as part of the Sports Dome project that was actually intended to take the runoff from this portion of the site, go to the shallow wetland, and then eventually discharge to the west basin. So we will also be reusing those stormwater practices, and there are easements in place that would allow us to discharge the stormwater. Regarding the grading on site, so there is a pretty significant slope from Interstate 84 being the high part of the site and 52 being the low part of the site. So retaining walls will be required. So along the southern property line would be a cut wall. So essentially I-84 is higher than the site, and the maximum height of that wall is 32 feet. And then along the western property line, just to the east of that substation, there will be 2 fill walls. So essentially the building and the facility are higher than the surrounding areas, and the maximum height of those retaining walls is 20 feet. Going over water and other utilities, so Dutchess County Water and Wastewater Authority is the planned purveyor, and their water is supplied by the Poughkeepsie Joint Water Board. So there's a water line that actually runs from Poughkeepsie to the Global Foundries project known as the Central Dutchess Water Transmission Line. This has a capacity of 10 million gallons per day and is using approximately 2 million gallons per day. We are proposing 27,450 gallons per day, so clearly within the capacity to be treated or to be served by the DCWWA. So as I mentioned, this Central Dutchess water line ties into a utility building on the Global Foundries property. And then from there, there is a 12-inch water line that runs along West Drive and then eventually crosses the easements and then comes over to our site. So we plan on reusing that for the proposed facility. And there are also easements in place for that. So the fire demand is 2,000 gallons per minute over 120 minutes. So we plan on fully managing the pressure and storage needed for the fire flow with that tank that is located just to the west of the guardhouse at the northeast corner of the building. So that tank has approximately 240,000 gallon capacity. So that will be sufficient to provide firefighting services for the facility. So for sewer, we are requesting to be included into the John Jay Sewer Improvement Area to be treated by the Global Foundries wastewater treatment plant. So we understand that this treatment plant has a capacity of 6 million gallons per day and is currently treating just under 3 million gallons per day. Again, we are proposing approximately 27,450 gallons per day, which is well within the limits of the wastewater treatment plant's capacity. We would be tying in via gravity from the building and also the 2 guardhouses up Auditorium, north on Auditorium Drive, and tying into the existing substation. So we have received copies of the pump station reports, and we have analyzed the pumps and the pump curves for the facility, and we have determined that even with our additional flow and factoring in the future build-out that was included in the reports, that the pump that's currently there is still adequate and can be serviced for this site. For electric and gas, we plan on using Central Hudson Gas and Electric. There is ample service for electric from the substation, shown just to the west of the site, And there is a gas line in Route 52 that we also plan on tying into that also has adequate capacity. So there are no concerns with electric or gas service, and we are working with Central Hudson to facilitate these connections. Going over landscape, so you can see there's quite a landscaped area along the frontage of Auditorium Drive and all of the buffers and the perimeter of the site. So we're proposing over 700 trees and over 2,100 shrubs. So the landscape buffer around the site does comply with the ordinance, and it provides a nice aesthetic for those driving by. Last thing I want to talk about is lighting. So we are using dark sky friendly, high efficiency LED lights with cutoff shields to reduce any light spillage. The building mounted lights are at 25 feet and the pole mounted lights are at 40 feet. And due to the site grades with Interstate 84 being higher than our site in many areas, this would even further reduce any possibility of light spillage. We've analyzed along the property line and there are no impacts from light to the adjacent properties. And with that, that concludes my statements.
Okay. Thank you, Kristen. I'm going to ask the professionals to make a statement.
So I just wanted to talk a little bit about the process. So the economic redevelopment special permit, which this project is applying for, is actually granted by the town board. So, and the town board has taken lead agency. They declared themselves lead agency, I believe, at the end or beginning of October. And they have basically referred this project to the planning board for site plan review. On November 5th, we've scheduled a joint public hearing between the planning board and the town board for the special permit and the site plan. So I just want to make that announcement again, that it's November 5th. I believe you guys were, everybody's available for that evening. So November 5th, and that public hearing will be held at Town Hall. Am I correct about that, Jackie? Yeah. Okay. And that's 7 o'clock as well? Okay, 7 o'clock, joint public hearing between the town board and the planning board. And the town board is conducting the secret review.
Okay.
Sure. We have, or are in receipt of their traffic impact study. We have, for about a week now, been having that under review. So we anticipate to have some comments shortly. We are looking closely at the impacts along 52. Yeah, as you know, even when the West Complex was in operation, there was a fully operational signal at South Drive and Rothel. That's no longer there. You know, the dome has, or the sports dome has not been realized yet, so we're looking at those impacts. We have had some discussions with the DOT about a conceptual improvement at Auditorium Drive, since there is the potential to have, you know, that to be a public road as a connection out to Limekill. We're looking at a conceptual plan of actually installing a roundabout there to facilitate, you know, a bypass to Limekill Road, and to also facilitate any movements from this site or any of the other development on this site onto Route 52. I think in terms of, you know, the rest of the stuff that Tristan went through, I think we're in general agreement. I mean, I think the trucks are, you know, that's going to be a pretty obvious restriction to 84. We're looking at their traffic distribution to make sure that you know, that makes sense. There will, you know, although they're currently not proposing roadway improvements, again, we're coordinating with the DOT with that. I think, you know, eventually the DOT is going to want to look at that traffic study too. The project has been coordinated and sent up to the DOT. They are in the process of getting it cataloged into their system. I don't know if you guys have specific questions that...
Are there any potential impacts with the school at all?
Well, one of the things that actually, and Trista, if you want to expand on what I'm going to say, one of the things they didn't talk about is their hours and their shifts of operations. I don't know, can you come up and give us an overview of that?
That is one of my questions, so actually they'll take this from asking.
So we took a look at the local peaks as well as the peaks for this particular project, and they actually do not coincide. So we did analyze the traffic study with worst case scenario, assuming that they would coincide, which is a very conservative approach. But the peaks at the school and the peaks for this facility do not coincide.
So I think their shift begins at 7 a.m.
That's the
So
worst.
their peak hour is really going to be between 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. They're running a double shift. The second shift, or that first shift discharges at, I think, 5:30. If I have, I probably can dig it out in my paperwork here. And then the second shift wouldn't start until 7 p.m. So they do sort of stay on the outskirts of the peak hours. And, you know, they have given us a generation, trip generation, I think even from another facility. I'm not sure if you can comment on where that information has come from, but our understanding is that it's come from another development that you guys have done.
Yeah, we get the numbers provided to us from.
Okay, and what Trist is indicating is that their peak hour traffic, they expect it to be, you know, slightly offset from the roadway peaks, but they analyze their traffic against the roadway peaks.
What's your shift change?
That's just shift change. Is truck traffic could be happening all day long and all night long?
So yeah, the truck traffic is distributed throughout the day, but generally, because employees are moving in and out of the building, they try not to send as many trucks through the site at that time. So actually, truck traffic generally tends to be a little lighter at those times.
How many total employees per shift?
730.
Well, the project will have 500 full-time employees, but during seasonal periods, they'll have more, and there'll be temporary employees as well. Again, what Trish is, for this company, they're and for a tenant, they have not yet. They like to remain still confidential, but that will be changing soon. And their trip analysis is very well honed to a lot of facilities that they have elsewhere across the country. So it's a huge science for them to avoid any conflicts. That the adjacency of the school was something that was a big concern for them as well. We looked at that, and it's almost uncanny how something that's so close could almost have very little interaction. It was a big concern when we first started looking at the site. But really, I can't overemphasize how beneficial having this main drive heading out to an intersection where you have two left-hand turn lanes into the site, two right-hand turn lanes out of the site, off the highway, you have dual exit ramps. That infrastructure was huge for us. It was huge for our tenant because we had a very big sensitivity to not wanting to add traffic to the local road network. And as was mentioned, again, the offset for peak is there, but for the benefit of the study, we've assumed that they're aligned. And even with that condition, we're not generating much of a burden on the local road network.
How did you calculate the majority of the employee traffic coming off of 84?
That goes from, you know, looking at the road network, there's a very extensive demographic analysis that they look at for any facility. So most of the employees will be within the general area, but looking at the road patterns and where they will be coming to the site, I-84 was deemed to be the primary route.
And then the 52 entrance will be for employees only, visitors? Like, what's the idea of?
I would say, so that 25% will probably represent local employees, where that's clearly the quickest way for them to go during the commuting hours, and then it's people probably going out to get gas and get lunch and.
So we have all these different projects, some that aren't fully approved. It's the compounding effort on 52, not just from this
Oh,
meeting.
yes,
from
right, yeah,
previous
so
ones.
they're
That's our main concern,
Concentrated in the
It's the
same area.
concentrated between the other developments and stuff like that. It's really a lot going on within, let's call it, quarter of a mile,
Yeah,
half a
Sure,
mile.
their traffic study actually included
It
the proposed traffic from the sports dome even, and then all the other developments that are on the table, they've included
The
that.
residential, everything in itself.
Yeah, even the ones that aren't approved yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah, traffic was it was one of those.
It's a very sensitive area.
No,
It's in whole areas.
For the business that we're in, I can say that just for our own business, we know, what these projects can represent in terms of generation of truck traffic. We're very aware of that as we go in. When we looked at this site, it was one of the first things we looked at. And then for the tenant that we had, they have a very heightened sensitivity to it. So it was looked at with that concern in mind.
Curious, considering that, we're so close to the school in itself, and you answered my other question because I was curious if you were building on speculation or if you had a tenant already. Is there any kind of commercial hazardous stuff that will be transported through this, or is it just general commerce kind of items?
General commerce.
All right. And there's no potential for any of that there?
No, and in fact, the concerns our tenant had was, they want to make sure that there's no even way that there's conflict with the traffic and pedestrians, and so that was.
My question before about any impacts goes beyond traffic. It could be noise, it could be safety. It really is an all-around thing, considering it's one of the schools, and up here our schools are very big. It's not so. You got the baseball field right there, the soccer field, everything in itself.
Yeah, no, and we noticed that there's a grade change here.
Yeah.
It's just not a natural way for people to, climb the hill with their bike and then try to.
No, I'm not worried about that. It's just more of the general environment in itself.
Does the site require any remediation of any kind at this point?
No, IBM, they close out the site as you would expect a company like they would, so everything is fully documented. The one, we don't have an area that shows it. This was the area where they have their big chip manufacturing facilities.
West Complex was mostly offices,
Yeah,
a
it was mostly offices
computer
and,
room, and then you had there was an advanced semiconductor site
Yeah, so you
there
have
as well.
These are basically the conference center, office buildings, you had a utility building, and then you did have a chip manufacturing facility that was there. But it was all studied, there have been a number of studies on it, but the one that we ended up completing, which is sort of a cumulative gathering of everything, no areas of environmental concern.
And when was that completed last, the date?
That was, the date was, I think, the draft of it was issued in May.
Of this year?
Of this year.
2020.
Yeah.
And will the new user be handling or storing any hazardous substances?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm assuming that the 4 existing buildings are getting ripped down to
Correct.
put up the
Yes.
new warehouse.
Yeah. That's correct.
Are there visitors in addition to the employees and the trucks that are coming in?
Not a lot. This is where goods will come in, and then goods will go out. There'll be no retail element to this, and it won't be something where they're going to be receiving visitors or a lot of consultants there. It's more just the flow of goods.
And I'm sorry if you said this already, what are the dimensions of the building, just the footprint of the building?
I want to say it's
It's roughly 570 the depth is 570 and the length is about 1,112 at its maximum.
Okay. So the dome was, I think, what, about 450 by 900 feet or two, just for reference? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can see, that's the footprint of the building.
Brandon, the lighting system at Rothel and 52, is that expected to be reactivated, or they're looking at that as well?
Well, I think in the domes proposal, you know, that was something that was on the table. You know, with the reconfiguration of South Drive and its connection to Auditorium, I think that an improvement would probably be better served at Auditorium than at Rothel. So that,
It is just that traffic flow from coming eastbound. If most people are going to go to their site, you know, that's just keeping it from going down a little bit further.
right. Well, I don't think. I mean, you guys can access your site along that South Drive or not. I'm not sure what the
No,
easement
well,
is.
so, I mean, this is,
Your site, your access is on Auditorium, correct?
oh, yeah, no, that we're not looking at the connection here contributing to the flow of our traffic at all. And that's, you know, listen, we don't know what's happening with the sports dome. We're not looking to have any influence in what they need to do. We're looking to be able to develop the balance of the site, assuming that if they do finish, and when they do finish, such that they do have activities, and that was already captured in their traffic studies and the level of improvements that were needed. For here, we're basically providing this portion of the road so that when they are done, this connection can be made, and you can have that flow of traffic. But we're not looking to use that.
They have about, I think they've estimated about, and this is what we have under review now, but they've estimated about 5% of the traffic would be coming from the west, 5% from the east, and 15% from the north. So that traffic, you know, traveling eastbound would then be able to take you know, the employee traffic would be able to take a right turn onto Auditorium to enter the site.
Wasn't the dome going to use some of the parking to the south?
Yes.
Yes, that's that 500 space. That's the 500 space lot that they talked about.
So there's an agreement in place. Trista touched on this. When this was subdivided, there was an agreement where there would be 500 spaces that could be used for overflow for when they had a major sporting event. When this was, you know, potentially going to be an office park that could be offsetting off of when they had an event on a weekend or night, there wouldn't be a lot of parking. So they were just using existing parking fields that obviously at this point have all deteriorated. What we've done is we've said, okay, we're going to reserve that area. We don't know what's going to happen here. If something would happen, we're going to fulfill the obligations to have an area for them to provide it, which actually is a much better improvement than where it was. Before it was a portion here and a portion here. It was disjointed. This is meant to be so that those 500 spaces could be built here. It's north of the South Drive transfer road. So from our standpoint, even though it's on this property, we're not relying upon it for our own use, for our own parking. Our parking requirements are all in the parking fields that are south of South Drive, so there's no overlap.
And I believe they're proposing to land bank it, that parking, and only construct it if it's needed for the dome.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because that's different than using the existing parking areas.
Correct. So the existing parking.
That's still within the agreement with the dome, or is that being modified?
Yeah, the agreement.
Well, go on,
I was going to say, the agreement with the dome is to provide the area for the parking, which this will do, and it puts it in a better configuration. If they need it, then they will be able to have their operation, and there'll be connection points here that will be much safer and better than what the existing arrangement is. So we're going to fulfill the obligations of the agreement, but we're not making any judgment as to whether they're ever going to actually build and have a...
But will there be like bond or surety in the fact that it's done? So if it is required?
Well, yeah, I mean, again, this is something that we have to, I mean, we will be discussing with them about what their plans are and when they're going to do that. Our, you know, part of this application is, and that you have as part of your approvals, is to approve that relocation. So, you know, we're assuming we'll work through that as part of the site plan.
And saying the dome does go through, who builds that parking lot?
If, I'm sorry?
if the dome does go through, or they finish the dome, who builds this parking lot?
Not sure. The documents aren't actually clear.
Because the original assumption from the planning board was that they were using existing parking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, look, from a practical standpoint, as I'm saying, as we get into it, our view is that, you know, if this is just overflow, it probably is almost questionable whether you really should just have a paved parking lot that basically is used very infrequently. Maybe what it should be is a grassed parking lot that has infiltration so that you're not just generating runoff for no reason. So the thought is, there's a lot of speculation whether it'll never be needed or not. I think we're prepared to take a common sense approach as to whatever it is how you'd like to handle it, with the fresh opportunity to take a look at it to say what's smart to do. Creating more impervious space for an occasional event for a project that may or may not get built is something that, in our minds, probably doesn't make sense to go build it up front and we'll just let it sit there and bake in the sun and generate runoff. But
your stormwater includes that.
But our stormwater includes it, yes. So we will abide to the letter of what the agreements require. It's more just a question of what would common sense dictate is the right way to approach it. That's all.
But you as the developer are prepared to improve that if it is required of you?
If it is required of us.
And you are prepared to post a bond or some type of surety in the fact that it does happen, if in fact it does get to that point?
We will do what would be required, yes. This is not going to be a sticking point for this project. I guess, again, it would be, to us, it would be fairly, it would be odd to go ahead and build a parking lot when you don't have a project.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're just looking to reduce the ambiguity of it, like
clearly.
having like a,
No
you know,
ambiguity, yes.
white elephant there.
That's why we haven't assumed any of our improvements are going to piggyback off of theirs, because we don't want to make an assumption that may not get fulfilled that's outside of our control. We understand the concern and we're happy to work with the board, planning board, the town board, and the rest of the township staff and officials to figure out what makes sense to do as it relates to that element.
Are you purchasing the property?
Yes.
Is there any timetable that your tenant will make an announcement of who they are? Or tentative timetable?
Yes, I mean, it's all geared towards if this is a project, I mean, they're basically saying, is this a project that can get approved? And we are, you know, timing-wise, the goal is to have this project in construction soon after the beginning of the year, or when the weather breaks.
So them revealing it as if after approval, it's conditional on approval?
Not yet determined, but likely before that.
So, since you're going to have trucks on the site, are they going to be idling? Thus, with a high school nearby, just the exhaust?
In terms of noise and nuisance, that's all part of the EAF studies, and it's all it's in with normal and customary ways in which these buildings operate. I mean, one of the things that we did also like about this is, you know, you're away from the frontage, you're pretty far distance from any residential areas, and even where you do, you've got a pretty big barrier in I-84, which generates a tremendous amount of noise on its own. The noise studies show very, very little in the way of...
well below 70 decibels.
I don't know that.
Yeah, no, the sound study, the existing, or the site as it would be proposed is totally compliant. There are no additional sort of sound walls, any sort of measures like that required. And actually, just to
Can you just come up
And just to expand on the question on idling, so there are actually strict no idling rules. So on the signage plan, as all of the trucks enter the site, there's a large sign right at the guardhouse, and it says right on there, no idling, so they are very strict about having no idling. They understand. And
So there would be no like overnight trailers sitting there with the truck running or any of that type
yeah.
of stuff?
No.
And just so you have an understanding of the data, I mean, the data that was presented to us indicates about 300 trucks entering and 300 trucks exiting the facility in a 24-hour period.
Per day?
Per day, yeah.
Trista, can you, I wanted to ask about the, I missed some of the numbers you were giving us as you were talking about the water tower and the are you sprinklering the building? Is that to support the sprinklers, or is that actually
No,
firefighting versus fire suppression? I just wasn't clear what you were...
No, you are correct. It is fire suppression. So the building would use what's known as an ESFR, which is early suppression fast response. So the tank is intended to supply the sprinkler system. So essentially, the line would be, the existing water line would be extended to the tank, and then the tank, the water would sit in the tank. There's a pump house there. So then that would be pressurized, and then there's a fire loop that goes around the building, which supplies both the hydrants and the sprinklers within the building. And the tank is, at this time, 240,000 gallons. We're still finalizing the design, but that's the current size of the tank.
Okay. And you said that lasts for at least 120 minutes. Is that just for the suppression, or is that also with use of the hydrants at the same time?
I believe that is for just the sprinkler system, but I am not a fire protection engineer.
So theoretically, though, you wouldn't have just the sprinklers going off for 2 hours before you're using the hydrants or trying to provide firefighting at a site, I would assume.
Yes.
So then, how long, if the hydrants are only connected to the tank, is there an alternate water source that's nearby there? What would the firefighting look like? Jason, I don't know. I'm asking the right question.
Sounds like a good question.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So 240,000 gallons for your fire suppression system internal to the building. You said it also will feed hydrants, I'm assuming outside the building.
Yes.
I don't know for a building of this size whether that's sufficient or not, or whether you need additional hydrant capacity if you're fighting a fire at that building.
So our fire protection engineers did look at that, and then based on the state code, that was determined to be what was required to supply both the building and the hydrants on everything on the loop, essentially, because it's on the same loop.
Okay. And then, if you don't mind, just also the sewer treatment. I think I caught 27,000 gallons per day is what you're,
yes,
give or take, is
yep,
roughly what you're expecting to use.
Yes.
And then I missed what the current plant capacity is.
So, just give me 1 second.
Sure. No, I'm sorry. I just didn't catch it as you were saying.
No, it's all good. I just don't want to. I want to make sure the numbers are spot on. So the wastewater treatment capacity currently, the wastewater treatment plant currently has capacity for, or it's approved for 6 million gallons per day, and it's currently treating, I believe, 2.89 million gallons per day. So 27,450 additional gallons per day will not have a significant impact.
And have you looked at that in concert with I'm sorry, is it iParks? I guess it would be iParks additional usage?
So that 2.89 is iParks usage.
Their current usage or their anticipated full use of the site?
I would need to confirm that. That I'm not certain of.
Okay. I think we'd probably just want to confirm where they think they would end up as they're fully built out versus where they are right now versus, and I agree with you, this seems small in comparison. I just want to make sure we kind of understand what those numbers look like.
Absolutely.
The increase to the
This one has slip ramps.
to the runoff from that treatment plant, we probably just want to assess as well.
This becomes stop controlled.
Okay.
Michelle, I don't recall the last time we looked at this. I think there was an assessment of the treatment plant.
Yeah, I think Scott would actually might know
Or
that.
Scott,
off the
sorry.
top of his
Yes, go ahead,
head.
I'm sorry, repeat that, please.
So the 27,000 gallons a day sounds minimal in comparison to almost 3 million currently being used per day. Do you agree with those?
Yeah, the concern wasn't so much the treatment plant as our lift station, but we did take a look at our lift station, and we do have adequate capacity at our lift station. We have to do a little minor reconfiguration of some valving, but pretty minor in nature, so we do have capacity.
And is there any chance that this site could be expanded from what it is now, proposed as now?
No.
Is there any
As
plan?
part of this, there's going to be a reservation of capacity at our lift station, so if they were to increase something later, they'd have to go back and renegotiate that, and if any improvements were necessary at that time, it would be addressed then.
Is there any plans for any emergency electrical service or generator, anything like that? Fuel oil, stuff of that nature, or you're just running on pure utility?
Yeah, if you're asking about any sort of like storage tanks for fuel or anything, nothing like that is
I
proposed.
think he's asking about emergency backup for power, in case the power gets
I mean,
knocked
it's
out.
kind of, it's twofold. If you're gonna have any emergency generators, anything of that nature.
I believe a generator is proposed. That's still, within design, but that is the
I
understanding.
would just think, a place of this size, it's gonna have a settling tank of a different sort, so then what would be the details of the location and, the details of that? We'd be curious. Is it gonna be a rooftop? Is it gonna be a shed on the plane level? Especially, also depending what the operation details are.
Mhm.
Definitely, it's gonna be a decent size. So I'd be very curious of those details.
Yeah, we'll provide that.
But you're not, I think you said this, you're not planning to provide actual fueling point for the trucks coming in and out of the site. Your assumption is they'll get their own fuel off-site?
Yeah, that's correct.
I have just a couple of things. One, because of the large number of potential employees in the site, have you had any discussions at all with the county or anyone else about a potential transit stop nearby or located on the site for people that may want to take transit? And would you also consider a bus shelter somewhere for the employees?
So we haven't had that conversation yet, but we absolutely intend to. And actually, we currently are showing a bus shelter at the drop-off location at Auditorium Drive.
Okay, so where you're allowing the folks to come in and drop employees, and okay, so in other words, if you were getting driven by someone, you'd get dropped there, come in through security, and the other person would just turn and go, and wouldn't be allowed onto the site.
Well, so the car parking lot itself is not secure, so you could potentially drive in, drop them off, and then leave the car
So
parking
it's
lot.
not a secure campus, it's just
No,
the building?
just the truck court is secure. I mean, the building itself is secure.
So what
but-
area is basically locked down? If you had to, with your finger or whatever,
Yeah.
kind of,
So obviously, the gates are located at the guardhouse, and then there's a fence that essentially just runs along the perimeter of the trailer parking, down through here, and then more gates at the southern guardhouse for the primary egress, and then continues up, again along the trailers, along the building, in between the cars and the trailers, and then terminates at the corner of the building, so it's secure at
it's
both
basically southwest and the south end. All right, so that northeastern end is open to the general access, if you may say.
Yes, so just the unsecured part is essentially, we have fencing around the basement, so it's not security, but the car parking area is unsecured.
Okay.
And the others that the planning board has to refer this to the ARB. Just make sure that's done tonight.
Yes.
And has this already been to the FAB, Michelle, or is it?
I believe you've submitted the information to the FAB, Jackie, as part of, Jackie submitted it, yeah. It came in. She usually does that when it first comes in.
Couldn't tell me.
Has there been any response to the fire advisory board?
So I saw the comments. I don't know that they've been issued yet. I've seen responses, but I don't believe they've been fully circulated. We're reviewing them in-house.
And Michelle, or Jackie, the October 10th communication, it's been sent, I'm sorry. Scott, do like that. So has that been sent over to Project Red Tail, the comments on the 10th, a series of questions that they had? Okay.
Yeah, Jackie sent that.
Okay. We'll be looking for a response to those. Did you see? Were they circulated to the, did you recall seeing them? Yeah. Okay, so. Yeah.
Very happy to see it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I think the other thing I was wanted to know about the snow removal. So many trucks, and
It's a good question.
can you just brief us on how that's going to be quite a challenge, and I'm also concerned if it's going to be using like salt and.
So I recently learned actually that the way that they remove snow from the vehicles themselves is they use a bobcat with a brush attached, and they literally just run it over the top of the truck, so just the trailers. So I thought that was interesting. But there are limited areas for snow storage on site, so we would be using, any of the landscaped areas that we possibly could for snow storage. And there are, 700 trailer parking spaces, so at the worst case, if there is a need, they could be stockpiled there, or we could remove the snow off-site.
How many trailers do you anticipate being on site at a time?
I don't know the answer to that. I don't think we have those numbers. It's an internal operations.
It's going to dictate the snow removal plan.
300 in and out, right, on this.
On a given day, right? That's what they're, estimating as the traffic, or the truck generation, 300 a day. But again.
So you gotta figure a day for offload, a day for loading, and then they're picking it up and leaving. I mean, it can't be, I doubt they're gonna stay there for days and days, right? Typically?
Yeah, no, and a lot of time what will happen as well is they will come with a full trailer, they'll drop it off, and they will pick up another full trailer. So it's not like they're just going to be sitting there for days waiting for a trailer to load and unload. There are several jockey tractors around the site which will help maneuver the trailers internally.
And primarily full-size tractor trailers that are gonna ship in and out of the site?
Typically, yeah, like the 53-footers, yeah.
Sidewalks, as far as on Auditorium, are you going to install any, just so that workers, if they decide to enjoy the great dining that's on 52 in that area, that they can easily just walk around?
So at this time, we do not have a sidewalk. We do have a sidewalk to the drop-off area where a potential bus stop may be, but at this time, there is no sidewalk connected to Auditorium.
And then as far as walking over to iPark where there's other dining opportunities, any plans to put a sidewalk so the workers could go over there for?
At this time, there is not.
So is there a cafeteria in the building?
That is a great question.
Yeah, so it's,
just come to the.
We'll have you come up to the mic.
sorry, I'm trying, there are a couple of different prototypes for this. For this facility, it'll just be a break room, not an on-site.
You wouldn't want them to miss out on the food that's going to be available at iPark.
Is that right? Okay, well, we'll make them aware. I mean, that part of it, that walking distance
Good exercise.
is not short, but I mean, driving down to West Drive and then coming up, I'm not sure where the food facilities are. Thank you for letting us know. I guess we'll look into that.
Another bonus.
Okay.
iPark might consider a shuttle. It's that many people there.
Good point.
That's an interesting, yeah, why not? Yeah.
Yeah.
Any additional question from professionals or board members? Okay. So at this time, I have a motion to refer this project to the ARB for review.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
So our, as Michelle stated earlier, there'll be a joint public hearing with the town board. They will, Michelle.
Yeah, if you guys need to set it for the 5th. I mean, it's been scheduled and advertised, but you need to set it.
Okay.
So you need a motion to have the public hearing for the Project Red Tail site on November 5th?
At the town hall.
At the town hall?
Mhm.
Who's going to do this special permit is also necessary for this project.
How are we going to have a public hearing at the town hall?
It's going to have limited capacity in
Yeah, they
accordance
have
with the COVID
TV, they do have
regulations.
TVs out into the
Reception.
yeah, the
vestibule.
lobby area. They did it for one of our zoning board meetings, but, yeah.
There's going to be a lot of people there.
Regardless of where you have it, you can only have 50 people in the room at the same time.
Right.
GMC overflows.
Still could only have 50.
It's already been advertised, so it's set at the town hall.
No discussion. Can we repeat the motion, please?
Make a motion to have a public hearing for Project Red Tail on November 5th at the town hall, joint with the town board.
Second. It's been moved and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
So we will, Mr. O'Rourke, we will look forward to seeing you on November 5th.
And we look forward to it as well. Thank you for your excellent questions, and we're pleased to be moving forward, and thank you for your cooperation.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do you have a motion to, was there a question?
No, I said thank you.
Oh, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Have a great evening. Thank you.